Hello loves, and welcome to today's video. We are nearing the end of the year, which means it is time to get those reading goals wrapped up. I personally am probably a little bit behind on my reading goal this year, and mostly that is Dragon Age the Veilguard's fault, but these are going to be my recommendations for some short books you can read in December to really finish out those reading goals. The criteria I looked for were books that were under 225 pages, which for me is between 2 and 3 hours of reading, and also books that I gave at minimum a 4-star to, so they are books that I did actually enjoy outside of them being just short. First book on this list is The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. This comes in at about 215 pages. It is about a man who wakes up one morning and he's lying in bed as a giant bug, and he's so worried about the fact he has to go to work and his family, what they're gonna think about the fact that he's now a giant bug. I enjoyed this one, what it had to say about like capitalism basically, and I had fun with this one. It's fairly short, but it is a classic I enjoyed, and usually classics are misses for me. So Metamorphosis, definitely good, quick, even if it is a classic. Next is The Night Guest by Hildur Knutsdatter. This is a translated Icelandic novel about a woman who is waking up in the morning absolutely exhausted, covered in like bruises, dirt under her fingernails, and she goes to a doctor and she's like, I don't know what's happening, I'm exhausted all the time, help me. And the doctor's just like, I don't know, chronic fatigue syndrome. And then she like sleeps with a watch on by accident and it tracks her steps, and she's like, how did I get 14,000 steps while I was sleeping? So she is kind of trying to investigate where is she going in her sleep and why. So this is kind of horror thriller. It was very suspenseful. The ending leaves a little bit of room for thought as to what you think happened. So The Night Guest I really enjoyed, very good atmosphere. Night Guest came in at about 208 pages. Next, at 193 pages, is Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq. This is a novel about a woman living in, I think it was Nunavut, but it was definitely one of the northern territories of Canada, and how she is navigating growing up in this place and trying to connect with spiritual practices while also dealing with the generational trauma that Canada has kind of inflicted on our Indigenous peoples. So there's some poetry in here, and this goes some very weird places in my opinion, but because of those weird places, I was absorbed in it. I couldn't put it down. I think I read it in one sitting, so definitely very quick, engaging read. Next, we have Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabashig Rice. This is a novel also about an Indigenous community where one day the power and the cell and the internet service all goes down, and if you're living in Northern Ontario, that's something you're used to, but then kind of they realize that's happening everywhere. It's about a year of this community trying to survive without the modern amenities and trying to survive when other people find out how well they are surviving without modern amenities. I really enjoyed this one. Usually, like, apocalypse stories aren't necessarily my favorite, but I really enjoyed the way that this one was done. I thought it had a very unique perspective given it was an Indigenous community, and both this one as well as the sequel I would recommend. It comes in at 189 pages. Next book is a little bit of an obscure recommendation, but if you can find a copy of one of these books in a thrift store, I definitely recommend them, and that is any of the Alfred Hitchcock Presents novels. This is the one I have read. It is a series of short stories in the thriller horror genre. I read More Stories Not for the Nervous, and this is probably one of the highest rated anthologies I read this year. Most, if not all of the stories were really interesting, really captured my attention, and this comes in at like 183 pages. So it's quite short. I bought about 10 more of them because I really enjoyed the first one. So obviously these are not things you're going to be able to find in your brand new bookstore, but if you can find them in a used bookstore or online somewhere, I think these are all pretty short collections, and because they're short stories, they move a little bit faster so you can get through them. Next is a little bit of a cheaty way to get some short books in, is to read something that's aimed at children. So this next one is The 101 Dalmatians by Dodie Smith. This is the book that 101 Dalmatians, the movie, is based on. So Cruella de Vil, her friend has some Dalmatian puppies. She sees them, wants a Dalmatian fur coat, and steals the puppies. And it is about the parents of the puppies, the two adult dogs, trying to track down the puppies and rescue them. I'm a dog lover. 101 Dalmatians has always been one of my top favorite Disney movies, so I obviously enjoyed the source material as well. I did really enjoy the style that this was written in, and the fact that it is from the POV of the dogs was a fun little twist, and it's aimed at children, so it is a very short read, coming in at about 180 pages. Also kind of in the younger genre, but still I think a very good quality book, is Poison for Breakfast by Lemony Snicket. This is about a man who wakes up one morning and eats his breakfast, and then he sees a note that something in his breakfast was poisoned. And so he has to go on a journey to track down who in his life may have poisoned his breakfast. Was it the maker of the bread? Was it the maker of the milk? Etc, etc, etc. It's written in that Lemony Snicket style that is so engaging to read. I would also highly recommend the audiobook for this one because it is read by Patrick Warburton, who I think was in the show, played Lemony Snicket, but he has that really distinctive voice, which I really enjoyed listening to. So this one, a lot of fun, even if it is aimed at a younger audience. Very quick read to get through at around 158 pages. Next book is back to adult horror, and that is Linghun by A. Jiang. This is about a town where there are these houses on this specific street. You can see ghosts. So obviously, prime real estate, and people basically camp out on the lawns of these houses trying to win the opportunity at a lottery to purchase one of these homes. So we follow basically two main characters. One is someone whose family lives on the lawn of a house trying to get the opportunity to buy one of these houses. And one is a teenager who recently moved into one of these houses. Her parents were like gifted one by a family member, and they want the house to be able to see her deceased brother. So it's kind of about this girl growing up where her parents are uprooting her life to chase after her brother who has passed away and don't really give her attention, and this teenage boy who also his family is so obsessed with seeing their dead relative that they're kind of neglecting him. I thought this was a really interesting concept. I was not expecting what happened when one of the lotteries goes down. That was wild to read, and this one comes in at 150 pages, so definitely if you're interested in like the lottery Shirley Jackson story, this is kind of a similar vein, and I think you'd really enjoy it. Next we have a book that is non-fiction, and I highly recommend everyone to read, and that's Against Technoableism by Ashley Shue. This is about how growing up in an advancing technological society, we are going to have to reevaluate how we think about and talk about disability. While we rapidly have technology that can address things such as cochlear implant, addressing deafness, as we get more in advanced prosthesis, how those things need to take into consideration the identity that is having a disability, the community that you get from other people who have the same disability, as well as the point of view of those without disabilities to see it as fixable, as well as the financial implications of addressing those things. So I think this was an excellent book to really be a mindset shift on how we think about disability, and it is own voices. It is coming from someone who is an amputee. There were also some discussions about mental disabilities as well, that the author really took cues and wording and advice from those who have those disabilities when making those points. I thought this was a really important and really interesting read, and is only 148 pages, so really quick but really important and excellent read. Next short book is Skull Daddy by Stephanie Ann. This is about a little girl and her parents, and one Halloween they get this skull decoration at a thrift store, put it up on the wall, and the little daughter becomes absolutely obsessed with it, starts kicking and screaming when they try to take it down after Halloween, and then also maybe it's possessed by a demon that's talking to her. Follows a year in the life of the family as their life kind of just falls apart in the wake of this decoration and their daughter being obsessed with it. I really enjoyed this one. It didn't end as I was expecting it to end. It was very tight, quick narrative, but contained all of it needed to contain to be a great book. And this one comes in at about 115 pages, so I definitely recommend checking that one out. Next book is This Is Where We Talk Things Out by Caitlin Marceau. So this is about a woman who has a very toxic relationship with her mother, and when her father passes away, she kind of agrees to go on a trip to a cabin in the woods with her mom to maybe try and reconcile a little bit. The relationship between her and her mother, very toxic, and gets worse. It ended kind of how I was expecting it to end, but the trip to get there was wild. So I really enjoyed this one. Definitely, if you have toxic mother relationship, some trigger warnings for this one, but I enjoyed it. It had some good horror aspects to it, and it's fairly short at 114 pages. And the final short book that I have to recommend is So Fluorescent by Amanda Cordner and David DiGiovanni. This is actually a script for a play that has been published as a book. It is about two friends. The one friend wakes up in the morning after partying for a text from their other friend saying, "It's over, we're not friends anymore." You get kind of their perspective as to what happened when they were partying that night. And then kind of in Act 2, you get the friend who texted them to say it's over, their perspective on what has happened throughout, not just that night, but through their whole friendship. I really liked this one. I thought it brought up some really important issues about cultural appropriation in LGBT spaces, and it's 88 pages, so it's a very, very quick read. I enjoyed this one. I thought it was snappy and quick, but very interesting. So that is my final shortest recommendation on books that you can read this December. If you made it to the end of this video, leave the skull emoji in the comments for Skull Daddy, or let me know some 200-page and under books that I can read to catch up on my goal, because I'm definitely behind on it. If you enjoyed, please like and consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Oh, he's so hot.